mother is trying to earn her place in the world by sacrificing the son, and the princess sacrifices her place in the world to care and support for Hans. So
Yeah. All right.
it is very mirrored. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, speaking of the princess, I just want to go back to like the apples, which are usually the big quest item in a whenever they
Mm.
show up in a fairy tale, they're usually like an important thing. And here they're
Yeah,
just
that's
like
funny.
he just grabs the apples. Um and then so the apples are outside the castle and then he goes into the castle. So the apples are almost like the lure to get him in there. And
Mm.
he opens the door and there's this naked woman tied up, I assume, to a chair, but who knows? Um and I just think it's funny, because one, like you don't have a lot of stark naked anything in a fairy tale.
Yeah,
It's kind of an
I've never seen
unusual
that.
image.
Yeah.
And here's this like innocent, relatively young man breaking into a door and seeing this like, naked lady on the
Yeah.
floor, this naked princess on the floor.
Lusty
And I
young
just thought it was
man.
funny that that like he doesn't do anything. He's very respectful, but he starts a huge fire. And I'm just sort of like thinking it through of like the lust of a young man and sort of the burning of it and the like the
That's
huge
funny.
fire. It just makes me laugh. I don't think that the metaphor
It's like an
me
explosion from him.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And that alerts the well, actually that's interesting. That alerts the the army and the ships who are sort of like the like a male. I mean, at least in these days, the army and the soldiers were predominantly, if not entirely, male. At least that's how we understand them.
Hmm.
Um, and so there is this sort of call to a healthy masculine there,
Mm.
of the king that eventually accepts him as a successor. Like the soldiers are showing up on behalf of the king to rescue the princess.
Mm.
So there is sort of a like the first introduction of the feminine and especially, assuming desirable feminine, the sort of the masculine rush, the excitement and the lust and the attraction, like that calls something from the good masculine and kind of brings something of it into his life,
Mm.
and he earns that connection by caring for the princess instead of, taking advantage of her or kidnapping her or raping her or whatever, it is. And there's not a lot of rape in fairy tales, but we were just talking about Greek myths, and
Yeah.
that's pretty close. There's a lot of rape in Greek myths, unfortunately. Um, I don't see Zeus being quite so polite about it.
Yeah.
Um, but but yeah, that's really interesting because I didn't that when I first read the story, and even when I read it like shortly before our recording here, that scene in particular of like, how come he's starting a huge fire and what does that mean and why are the ships like the whole thing felt out of place to me, and now it kind of makes sense. So
Mm.
that's cool. So, I don't know. Do you have any
Yeah.
thoughts on that? I don't want to.
I mean, it is interesting that he doesn't try to fight the giant or something like that. He's just being practical. I mean, it's more practical to bring all of her society's resources to bear to save her rather than try to full-heartedly fight the giant dragon, whatever you want to say it is, you know?
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, there is a contrast between the behavior of the giant, which is your sort of typical roaming kind of pirate-like rapacious force on the world. You know, we get our livelihood by stealing it by force. That's the way of just the beast or whatever. And then yeah, we get sex and babies from stealing women and raping them, you know. But then there's the opposite here of Hans, and uh, he picks the lock. He shows some dexterity. He takes the apples to try to save his father, who has told him that he's sick and he needs apples. And then yeah, instead of doing anything bad with the lady, uh, yeah, he sends a signal to society, and also, by the way, to her father, which is sort of the proper way. Naturally a father will try to protect the daughter, and the this time the giant has stolen her, but now he brings that protectiveness back, and he's kind of setting things right. And then he keeps doing that kind of to a fault by not going back with them and still doing what he thinks is right, and kind of trying to make whole his stepfather, whom he thinks is sick, who has told him.
Hmm. Hmm.
So you
Hmm.
have a lot of people that are acting badly, but Hans everywhere is kind of trying to do good.
Yeah, 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 for sure, for sure. And in that same way of like, it seems to be just sort of the natural effect of his virtuous nature.
Yeah.
It's just like he doesn't seem to think about it. He doesn't seem to waver. They ask Hans to come with them when they rescue the princess, but he explains he has to bring the apples back to his father. Doesn't imply any conflict on his part. It's just sort of like, no.
Please like and subscribe for more of our open minded content, and comment below on your thoughts or questions about the story. Let us know if you'd like us to cover another stimulating story, and thank you for participating.